Hello and welcome to the Golden Hour, a content series from us here at the Horizon League. Why the Golden Hour? Well, we certainly won't take up a full hour of your time, but it refers to the name of our league, the Horizon, where the earth meets the sky and where the student meets the athlete. We hope you enjoy today's episode. Hi and welcome to the Golden Hour, a content series from us here at the Horizon League. I'm Rachel White here with
John McCarthy.
And we're going to talk to John, get to know him a little bit better, his role as an FAR, and what he does at Robert Morris. So just start with that. John, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became the FAR.
Yeah, I've been at Robert Morris for 20 years. I'm a history professor there. I think I became the FAR kind of roundabout. I was like on an athletics committee where the previous FAR kind of chaired it. He knew that I had played high school and college sports and, was kind of maybe a little more interested than a normal faculty member and that kind of thing.
Sure.
And whenever our previous president was looking for a new FAR, whenever our other guy, stepped down, I kind of knew him a little bit also because our previous president, Chris Howard, was actually a running back at the Air Force Academy.
Yeah.
And he was like a sports guy too, and him and I kind of bonded a little bit over that. And so I think that's kind of why he asked me to do it, which was back in, I think, 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this for like 6 or 7 years now. It's one of the favorite parts of my jobs. It's really fun being around athletics. It's fun being around Division I student athletes, people who are very driven, who are very motivated in the classroom, outside of the classroom. So that's basically how it came about.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit more about kind of what the role of FAR looks like for you at Robert Morris. So obviously
Sure.
they all there's a connection between athletics and academics, but what does that look like for you specifically?
Yeah, there's several things that I think it makes our role kind of important. I think the most important part of being a FAR is you are both a representative of the academic community. You're the chief representative of the academic community to athletics. And then you're also the chief representative of athletics to the academic community. So you're really like kind of a liaison.
Yeah.
The NCAA, as you know, is very strict about having kind of a firewall between coaches and athletic administrators and faculty, because that's where things can kind of go haywire and corruption can exist.
Yeah.
So they're very strict about not having coaches contact professors, for example, if there's a conflict with a student athlete in the classroom.
Sure.
Same with administrators. So the FAR is the one person who works for athletics and works for obviously as an academic too, who can actually kind of be the go-between. So I think as someone who you mediate conflicts if they exist, and,
Sure.
and occasionally they do. But in addition to that, you also are just kind of bringing the concerns of the academic side of the house to athletics, and you're bringing the concerns of athletics to the academic side of the house, and you're making sure that everyone is kind of working together. And so I'm in the room in a lot of meetings where I will say something on behalf of academics if I'm in a room of athletic administrators, or vice versa if I'm in a room of academic administrators.
Makes a lot of sense. How do you work with the student athletes on your campus in your role?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that we do. One of them is you listen to the student athletes, especially with regards to if they're having concerns in the classroom or if there's concerns with scheduling. That's always a big issue.
Yeah.
Finding a way for student athletes to have course schedules that can fit into their practice time, and then practice times that can fit into their course schedules. You listen to them if they're having issues with they're traveling and they have to miss a test, and you want to make sure that they can take that test, proctoring the exam or talking to someone about arranging that.
Sure.
All of that is something that you do. So you listen. So you do a lot of listening, really. I think as the FAR, you especially when it comes to student athletes, you really just kind of listen to what they have to say. We had one lacrosse player, and our women's lacrosse team has been very successful the last couple of years. We had a senior lacrosse player who was in one of my social science courses, which involves this big research project. And at the end of the semester, she had to do this big 20-page long paper and then this big 20-minute long presentation. And her research topic was student-athlete mental health. Mm-hmm. And she just did this phenomenal job. She did this very sophisticated survey where she talked to student athletes and got their feedback and everything. And it was amazing because it's like that kind of like data that she produced for us can be useful to our to the university in the future, helping student athletes. So there's a lot of satisfaction with seeing that kind of stuff, and kind of moving on. So
yeah. Along those lines, what would you say your favorite thing about being the FAR is?
Oh man. I really, I've gotten to know a lot of different people at Robert Morris who I would not have known otherwise.
Yeah.
We're not a huge university, but athletics is kind of its own thing, and there's not a lot of opportunity to interface with coaches and administrators like informally on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And even before I was far, I'm a big sports fan. So I grew up in Western PA. I used to go to RMU basketball games when I was like in grade school.
That's awesome.
Like I've actually saw 2 of their conference championships in like the late 80s, early 90s.
Cool.
So I've like been a fan of RMU sports for a long time. And so I knew, student athletes and coaches that way as like a fan and a faculty member. But just getting to know people and getting to work with people. And the thing that for me, I was kind of blown away by how hard these people work, how long their workday is. Like a typical workday for anyone at a university is roughly 9 to 5, and then occasionally other weekends if it's grading or whatever for a teacher. But these people are working all day, and then they're usually covering an event, a game, right at night, and they have to be there too. Administrators get assigned to teams to be kind of like their go person. And they are there with them all the time, and so just getting to know the people on our campus who do that. And there have been so many people over the years that I've worked with. The people I work with now are student athlete or student development associate athletic director Danny Bonaventura. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Chris King is our AD, who's just, I don't know how he, is able to kind of sleep because the guy really never stops. I really have a lot of respect for what they do. Yeah. And I didn't really, it's like you knew that, okay, someone has to be here to do all this stuff, but you didn't really think about what that does to them and how much work that involves. And so it's very, very impressive.
That's awesome. Well, and speaking of that, you mentioned you've been an RMU sports fan for a long time. They've just had the best athletic year they've had since they joined the Horizon League. So what was that like from kind of like just a fan and being part of it perspective?
It was amazing. It kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. Our men's soccer team, our coach has only been here like less than 5 years, mm-hmm. and they won the Horizon League championship, and that was amazing. Our men's basketball team, and as you know, basketball is sort of like the sport that gets the most attention, has a long history of success. I think we've won 9 conference championships over the course of our history. Maybe that's not quite right, but it's a high number.
For sure.
Andy Toole's been a very successful coach. He's won several Northeast Conference championships, but they had a bad season the year before. And as you know, in this day and age, everyone leaves, and like almost everyone left last year. I think we were looking at like 2 players in April maybe mm-hmm. on our roster, and there was some coaching turnover with the assistant coaches. And I go to a lot of games, and I'll go to a lot of games no matter what. So, sure. But my expectations weren't very high. And the first game we played this year, we were playing at WVU, and I went down to the game because mm-hmm. it's only about an hour away from where we live.
Sure. And
I think we were losing 28-0 in the first 4 minutes of the game. And so I was like, oh man, and then things turned around, there's a lot of new guys on the roster. There's a ton of talent.
Yeah.
So following the progression from having almost nobody, watching Coach Toole build this team up, watching where they started from and then where they ended up, which was just amazing. I took my 12-year-old son to Indianapolis for the semifinals and championship game, mm-hmm. and he had just a blast. It was so much fun. You guys did a great job with the whole event and everything. It was really great. And then I took my older son to Cleveland for the game against Alabama, awesome. So he got to enjoy it too. So that whole thing was really special. But then in the spring, our men's lacrosse team won the Horizon League championship. Our women's lacrosse team was this close to winning. It's just been an incredible. Our women's softball team won the won the championship too. Yeah. So it's been unprecedented, and it's really been exciting. And all the people who are part of that, it's just nice to see what their work getting validated and all that kind of stuff, because it doesn't happen very often. It's really hard to win in Division I sports. So
for sure. Switching gears a little to your work as a history professor, tell us a little bit more about that, kind of what you teach, what you research, what your interests are on the academic side.
Sure. So I got my PhD at Marquette University, and I wanted to specialize in for research in urban history. I just really kind of fell in love with cities. And I had a great mentor who he was from Chicago, and he'd written a lot about Chicago, and he was just a great guy. And so that was always where I wanted to do my research and writing, et cetera. But I teach at a pretty small history department where I'm responsible for pretty much every class in modern American history. So I have to kind of, go outside of my specialty quite a bit, which I don't mind doing. So I almost kind of lead two parallel lives. I teach modern American history, I teach Vietnam, I teach immigration history, I do teach urban history. But then whenever I get time to do research, I do write about cities and city planning specifically. Okay. I wrote a book about Milwaukee. It's funny, every city that I've researched is in the Horizon League.
That's awesome.
So it's I was thinking about that as I was coming over here today. I wrote a book about Milwaukee. I've written some stuff about Pittsburgh. I just wrote an article about Cleveland. So I guess I was I got to do something about Indianapolis.
Yeah, you're really experiencing these major cities.
Yeah, exactly. Dayton, whatever. So I should just kind of take the tour. So
yeah,
I've done that. And the article I wrote about Cleveland, which was literally just published about a month ago, it was about a neighborhood that's literally exactly where the Cleveland Cavaliers arena is, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. And it used to be this Italian immigrant neighborhood, kind of mixed ethnic immigrant neighborhood that was completely demolished. We're talking 2,000 buildings were razed, about 15 to 20,000 people were displaced to make room for this massive train station and all these downtown office buildings and these different warehouses that were going to accommodate the railroad. And it's kind of a famous project in Cleveland, but no one had really written about the displacement that had taken place. Okay. And so I was thinking as I was driving to the tournament game, this is crazy that literally I'll be sitting right where I'd visited Cleveland a bunch of times to write the article. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, the library that I used for most of my research was the Cleveland State University archive too. So again, and they were amazing. It was before I became FAR, I'd started kind of tinkering with it. And I was God, Cleveland State's library is really awesome. And then now we're in the same league as them too, so it's funny how that stuff works out.
Yeah, it's really cool how kind of all your different roles sort of intersected on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that Horizon League footprint working to your advantage.
Very serendipitous.
That's awesome. Well, when you're not supporting RMU athletics or teaching or doing anything else as an FAR, what do you like to do kind of for fun? What are your hobbies?
Well, I have 3 kids. I have a daughter who's a senior in high school, a son who's a sophomore, and then another son who's in 7th grade. And my wife also works full-time, and she just became a professor also at this big nursing university. So we're very, very busy. Sure. All 3 of our kids also play sports. My daughter played volleyball. My 2 boys play basketball. As a lot of people my age know, if your kids play sports, you have to travel a lot because there's travel leagues and AAU this and club volleyball that. And so I joke with people that for a while there, my hobby was I was an Uber driver for my kids, basically, because they were old enough to do stuff, but not really old enough to drive yet.
Yeah.
Our 2 older kids can drive now, so it's not quite so bad. But I'm a sports fan too. I'm born and raised in Western PA, so I'm a huge Steeler fan, huge. I am a huge Pirates fan, but that's a continual disappointment in my life. I love basketball. I love all kinds of college basketball teams. I love Marquette because that's where I went to school. Sure. I grew up liking Pitt basketball. Obviously, RMU's number 1.
Yep.
My daughter's going to Xavier,
okay.
And my wife is asking me if I'm gonna root for Xavier now that she's there where they play Marquette, and the answer is no. Of course not.
Certainly not.
I'll root for them whatever. Otherwise,
they're playing someone else.
That's not gonna happen. So just being a dad is the most important thing in my life, and it takes up a lot of my time, which I wouldn't have any other way.
That's awesome. All right, one last question for you. So we like to end all of our podcasts with what we like to call our start, bench, cut. So I kind of give you 3 things, and you sort of have to rank them and tell me how they kind of fall for you. So summer's coming up, so we're kind of doing some summer theme stuff. Okay. So lake, beach, or pool?
Okay.
Start, bench, cut, those 3.
That's really funny because my wife, lakes are her favorite thing in the world, so I know what her answer would be. You said lake, beach, pool. So I would start the pool.
Okay.
I would bench the beach and I would cut the lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. I like it. All good options, but all have different advantages and disadvantages.
Now I don't want my wife to listen to this because she's a
We'll have to have her stop before we get to the last question. Be like, we actually ended right there. There's nothing else left for you to see.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, once again, I'm Rachel White here on the Golden Hour with
John McCarthy.
Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Golden Hour. Be sure to follow along with all the Horizon League news and action on our social media platforms at Horizon League and at horizonleague.com. Are you hungry? Cluster Truck is Indy's go-to delivery and pickup kitchen. With always free delivery and over 100 menu items, there is something to satisfy everyone's craving. Hand-stretched pizzas, pad thai, tacos, salads, wraps, burritos, and more, delivered directly to your curb. Delivering to Fountain Square, downtown Indy, Carmel, Castleton, Broad Ripple, Fishers, and more. Use code HLRadio at checkout to receive $5 off your next order of $20 or more. Order now at clustertruck.com.